Okay, so you've spent, I was saying, many years of your career in its software, but right now you are a chief creative officer at Saber Interactive. What is the daily work of a creative chief officer? What do you do in a daily basis?
Yes. So my role definitely has changed a little bit since my days at id Software, but some of the things are actually very similar. So Saber Interactive. Let me back up a little bit. So because it's a company that it's been around for a while, but maybe not so many people have heard of them. We have studios really around the world. We have a big office in St. Petersburg. We have an office in Madrid here in Spain. We have an office in Portugal, one in Minsk, and a small group up in Sweden. And so the company for a long time worked on work for hire projects and some licensed games. And now we are expanding to new IP, bigger licensed products, our own self-publishing. So as the Chief Creative Officer, I work with each of the teams to ensure that they maintain the vision, the creative vision of their games, that they focus on the core concepts. What are the handful of things that make a game special? Because some developers will try to do everything in a game. They'll lose sight on what's really core of the experience. So I'll work with the teams. We're creating new IP that we'll talk about in the future. Very exciting, and we're growing our publishing as well. So it is definitely a different job where I do lots of different things.
Okay, and when you were working in id Software, one of the well-known id Software works are the engines, not only the games. I suppose it's sometimes good, sometimes bad to have your own technology. Right now that you are in Saber Interactive and you have so many studios around the world, it would make sense to using the same engines around the world, or every studio is working with different tools?
Yes, so each studio actually does work with different tools.
Okay.
So our St. Petersburg office, most of the games developed there are created with our own technology. And that technology was used back on some of the Halo work when they did Halo Master Chief. A lot of it was in Quake Champions, World War Z, and our new titles. But like for instance, here in Spain, in our Madrid studio, they use Unreal, for most of the games, and in other studios based on the game, we use the technology most fitting to the title.
Okay. Let me go back now a little bit with your career in id Software, because you were working in the same company many years, and it's a company well known for shooters, first-person shooters. Did you get tired of working in the same genre for so many years?
No, because I do love I love action games, action shooters. He actually asked me what game I played last, and it's actually Gears 5, and he's like, "You still playing shooters?" It's in my DNA.
Okay.
I love that experience. Like I said before, the first-person shooter gets you most into the action of any genre. Like I love my little third-person games, but if your little guy's running across the screen and he's on fire, he's on fire, that's nothing. But when you're running around and you're on fire, that's totally different. What I hope to bring to Saber, because we work on shooters and sports games and truck simulators and social games, is the experiences of making first-person shooters, of making really intense, fast, precise action games. And the quality of detail, the attention to detail that needs to be put into creating a first-person shooter can be applied to other genres as well. And hopefully I can bring some of those lessons that I learned into other genres.
Okay, so did you learn something in particular that you think is useful to move forward the action genre? I mean, at some point, maybe you ask yourself, what's the next thing I can change or improve in the genre, because it's everything invented. It's over and over the same action, shooting. So
Yes, yes. So lots of things have already been done. It's how you do them, really. It's the execution. Like I always say, a great game design made by a bad team is a bad game. But if you have a great team that can execute well, you can take a simple idea and you can make it really, really good. If we look to the future, there are some cool technologies, interesting technologies, that are on the horizon that I think that you will see developers take more of an advantage of. That we will start to see some newer type of things.
okay. And where you were working in id Software, the id Software games were the main reference of the genre. So when we developers are looking for reference to what can I learn from this game, from the competition, what are nowadays people looking for, the reference is yourself, is your own games. So how do you seek for new things?
No, there are so many good games out there
Yeah?
now. Yes, those days are long gone. Yes, we are so lucky. We are so fortunate to live in a time when there are so many. There's great games on every platform. There's great games in every media, and everyone can surely take inspiration and teachings from any type of game out there. There is the standard for every genre in every game. So you don't need us to teach you about shooters. There's lots of games that are awesome.
Do you miss anything from the old days? Because actually games are more complicated. The technology, I would say it's easy to use, but there's need for more people, bigger teams, bigger expectations as well. So it's something that you miss from where things were simple.
It is sad. Like when I started at id Software, I was, I think, the 13th person. Well, the whole office was 13 people.
Wow.
And we just did everything. Like when I made levels, I put the sound in myself, and I would do the AI and do some of the art if I could. And you kind of just did everything. You did what was needed. That's better to say that. Now we have such experts in every single field. We have an expert in sound, we have an expert in music, we have an expert in texture design and layout, and AI. So yes, the expectations from our fans has definitely grown, and just the level of talent, the level of quality people that make games now, it's so amazing. So it is dangerous to think that you can do everything these days. When what now we need to think about is how we can work together, how you can find the best people, the best sound person, the best audio person, the best lighting person, the best find those people, give them tools that they can use to be successful, and inspire them to make something great, and you can make something amazing.
And when the teams are so big and companies have such bigger expectations and there's so much money invested in, there's the problems of crunch, for example, that nowadays people talk about. I think it's something that it's having always there, but what are your takes on the people crunching and
so yes, so crunch is it is a complicated thing, and and there are stories of studios that obviously push their employees too far, but one of the things that we did historically at id Software is it's planning. You know, so every kind of milestone, every sprint, you plan ahead, you look at what you've done, and then you need to plan and scope. So, and sometimes the scope changes. If you can't complete things in a timely fashion, you need to scope. Otherwise, you're going to get to the end and you have too much to do. So it's very important that you evaluate where you are, you evaluate your resources, and then how long things take to make and create, and then you adjust. Companies that do not adjust run into that problem, because what we make creative, everything we do is subjective. We make creative games. So it's very difficult to time box art. It's very difficult to time box genius creativity. And every developer, you know, the person that makes the textures and the lighting artists, all those developers, they are very passionate and they want to do the best they can. And they will push themselves. So the problem is if your scope gets out of whack to your time because you haven't adjusted along the way, you will get into a period of crunch. So what we do is, like I said, you have a sprint, you have a milestone, you look at the scope, the resources, the people, and then you adjust. That is how we have tried to kind of help the crunch mode. I know that's a very long answer, but it's a dangerous, crunch mode is a dangerous thing. Sometimes we do fall into it, but it also comes from a place of wanting to make our games as great as possible. You know, I've never talked with a owner of a company. I never talked to an executive producer that said, I want to take advantage of my employees. You know, they just want to make the best game they can.
Yeah. And sometimes you have been a designer, and in design, sometimes things work in paper, you think you are going to the right path, and then you play it, you test,
Yes.
and you have to change many things, right?
Oh, yes, you are absolutely correct. I have been in discussions where we have thought about it and discussed an idea, and we were so positive that it was going to work. And we put it in the game, and it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. So
what do you do then?
It's prototype and iterate. That is so key. You know, for us, we try to get things into the game as quick as possible to see if they're fun. And the sooner that you can start play testing your game, the sooner that you can start to experience it, the sooner you can find the fun. And if you can find the fun in your game early in production, you can build a better game. A lot of times developers, they spend the entire production cycle, you know, producing, they get to the very end, and then they're like, oh, we need to find the fun. And they just don't have time. So get it in the game, prototype it, and iterate until the fun is captured.
And how do you find that fun? Because fun is different for different people.
Yes.
For you, what is fun?
You know, for us, you know, like, so one of the kind of the mottos that we at id Software had for many years that I continue to have is if you make a game that you yourself like to play, there's a pretty good chance other people will like it too. You know, and yes, not every game that everyone makes, everyone's going to like. You know, there are some really, really popular games that I hate. And I'm like, why do people like this game? But it's just the way it is. But if you stay true to yourself, if you, if you make something that you enjoy playing, there's a good chance other people will play it. I enjoy it as well.
But in a big company like VIT Software or even Saber Interactive, you are so exposed because you reach so many people, millions of people. There's going to be always criticism. So how do you deal with it?
You know what? I have been on the internet for so long. There's literally nothing that people can say to me that will upset me anymore.
Okay.
Because I have heard it all. You know what's so funny? When I always joke that when famous people like get into like Twitter wars with like other people, I'm like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be smart. You know, you are not going to win an internet battle. You just can't let it bother you. I mean, I've heard everything, and you just can't let it bother you. You just got to focus on making the best game you can, and if you're making money and you're successful and you're happy, then you're winning.
Yeah, and we're talking about fun and make the best game possible, but there's always three elements that somehow fight between each other. It's the technology, it's the gameplay, and it's the story. How do you balance all that? Because for so many years in its software, that has been, or the perception.
Yes,
from
technology
outside,
and
like
gameplay over story.
Technology were.
Yeah, that's just the games that we made. You just got to focus on what you want to do. As developers, we can do anything. We can't do everything. So it's important to focus on what you're good at. It's important to focus on what kind of game and experience that you want to have. Obviously, story is more important to some people and less important to others. Technology, as from the early days of id, we were a lot about the technology. And then of course gameplay is important, but it's the experience that you want to create. If you set out to make a story-based game, focus your attention on that. But if you set out to make an action shooter that you just want to have fun playing, focus on that. And if you focus on what's true and core to your game, you will have a better chance of succeeding.
Okay, and to succeed during the game development phase, there's always some kind of challenge, technical or miscommunication or budget restrictions.
Yes.
Which one of the many challenges we face in game development is the one that always you have been finding out that
communication,
the recording one?
Yeah, it's the team.
Okay.
As a game director, it is really important that you clearly communicate the vision of the game and what you're making over and over and over again. Like for instance, in like Doom 2016, Marty Stratton was the game director on that game, and he had a kind of a like the X, like the one sentence phrase of what Doom 2016 was. And it was something like, be the ultimate Doomslayer to destroy demons and blah blah blah. It was, but he put that up on the presentation board every single meeting that he had with his team, every meeting. So you just drive home that vision. It's very important because a lot of times game directors assume that the team knows what they're making, but they don't. And you need to clearly communicate that to them.
And in a big companies, I assume I always worked in small teams, but in a big company, I assume that the communication is harder because there's distance, there's many people, many layers of management.
You are absolutely correct. It becomes much, much more difficult. So as game directors and leaders of a studio, it is your primary responsibility to communicate clearly to your employees. That is probably the most important thing you can do, above all else, is make sure everyone knows the game they're making.
Okay. I think we have 5 more minutes.
That was quick.
Yeah, but let's see if there's questions in the audience. So,
actually, I have a question.
Oh,
is there anyone here from our Madrid studio? I heard. Oh, there we go. There's a Sabre employee right there. Also, there are open positions in Madrid. So if you go to saber3d.com and you click on Madrid, you can see the open positions. I have to pitch.
Yeah,
on stage.
of course.
Let me pitch.
No problem.
All right.
So one question over there.
Okay. After the success that Doom had on 2016, would you like to see that kind of structure for a game, like more focused on the history and the lore that universe can give, but with Quake? That's the question.
Oh, so you want to see a Quake reboot?
Yes.
Yes. Well, you have to talk to Bethesda about that. But yes, the team, really focused on the core aspect of what like a Doom game was. You know, they focused on the experience and the emotions, and then they narrowed in on exactly why, you know, exactly what game mechanics could deliver that experience. You know, so the new game, which comes out next year, trust me, it's awesome. You should, you know, is an iteration of that. But yes, I do believe that in all games, whether it's another Quake or something else, you know, if you, as game developers, if you want to reboot a game or you want to reimagine a game, focus on the soul of the original. What made the original special? What was the emotions and the experience that people had playing that game? Concentrate on that. Apply game mechanics that support that emotion and those feelings, and then execute on that. That's the kind of the recipe for how to like reboot or reimagine an old game.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? None?
Wow, really? Like the voice actor got more questions than me?
No? I have more questions.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Wait, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the talk. What did you learn from the experience of the Rage? Because Rage in ID is a very difficult process. And what do you learn from that? Yeah, that's the question.
Yes. So you're talking about Rage 2, right? The last Rage? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So well, for me personally, you know how to work with a true kind of open world technology and open world engine, is you know, and how to apply the action. Like, hold on, let me back up. So a classic id game, a classic kind of game that I would make, you know, is very controlled first-person shooter. But when you have you know, a world like Rage 2, where, you know, it's a true open world experience, you know, how to apply the precision and detail of a first-person game in a big open space, because it is different. You know, normally the old games that I made were very like this. They're very deep, where everything was very detailed and precise. Whereas an open world game is like this. So, you know, we kind of have to go like this. So, you know, there's some things that, you know, obviously that, you know, we could have done differently. There's things that you know, we could change, but I did learn a lot about how to pace the experience, you know, how to deliver that intense kind of first-person action in a bigger type environment, which is really tricky. So it's kind of like the biggest takeaway is balancing, you know, those two experiences, true open world with precision of a first-person shooter, and how those kind of interact and work together. That was the biggest takeaway.
Okay. Another one. Okay.
Going back to your pitch, what kind of people are you looking for, and what do you look at when you hire people?
Oh, that's.
Oh yes. So check the website. We're looking for creative people. You know, for me personally, when I hire folks, you know, we look for people that obviously, you know, have talent, but are not afraid to look beyond their safe zone. You know, like the best employees are the Swiss Army knife employees that, you know, obviously they do one thing really well, but they're not afraid to try other things. To be, you know, well-rounded is very important. Also, and, you know, getting things done. So historically, you know, I've interviewed all kinds of like level designers or writers, and they come to the interview and they have a portfolio of a whole lot of work, but none of it is really finished, and that is a red flag. If you come to an interview and you say, "Oh, I have these 20 models or these 20 maps or these 20 paintings that I've worked on, but none of them are finished," or you come to the interview and you say, "I have the most beautiful thing ever made and it's done and I'm never," that is more impressive to me than the person that comes with 20 things that are never finished. Because as creative individuals, we always have a bit of self-doubt and a bit of insecurity. So we feel that the work is never really done. But you cannot be successful, you cannot ship a video game unless you finish it. So it's important to finish things. So, if any of you go to an interview and they look at your work, concentrate on the things that are finished. No one wants to see a whole bunch of stuff that's unfinished. That is something that I always tell people.
Okay, so there's time for one more question and we're done. If not, I have another one, but someone wants to ask the last one? No?
All right, well, let me ask
another question.
Yes,
okay.
yes. So I'll ask my own questions. So I often I'm often asked if I want to get into making video games, where do I start? Obviously there are lots of universities and programs, but what I encourage you to do is to find the mod tools for your favorite game and download those, and then start creating your own work. The best portfolio that you can create is work that you've done in other games and that it's also finished. Those are the people that we are most likely to hire. If you can come and say, hey, I made this Unreal game, or I made this Unity game, or I downloaded the Skyrim mod tools and made this a really incredible mission. Those are the people that prove that they can work with our technology or pre-existing technology. And it doesn't have to be for technology of the company that you're interviewing for, but it shows that you understand technology, you can make something, and you can finish something. That is what the advice I always give people.
Okay. It's a very great piece of advice. Thank you very much, Tim. And please give him a good applause.
Thank you.